Hi friends, welcome. Welcome to our live tonight. So tonight I'm going to chat about one of my favorite topics ever, which is natural law. It was one of the things that really helped me in my awakening, and I really consider it to be one of the keys of the Great Awakening of all of humanity. Learning about natural law, because it seems to be something that really just takes off a layer of our conditioning and our programming. And when I first dove into this, I dove into Mark Passio's seminar on natural law, and it's actually a 9-hour seminar. It's available on YouTube, and it's amazing. And when I first went through that, it was like a transmission. It was as if it spoke to me on such a fundamental level and helped me to just understand this reality that much better. And that was Mark Passio's seminar on natural law. And so, like I said, I feel like this is just one of the keys that really, it's one of the keys to the Great Awakening. I really feel that learning about natural law, particularly the philosophy of it. There are definitely some creators out there that talk about natural law and common law and how to reclaim your status and do all these different things with the law. But this is more about the philosophy of natural law and the principles of it, which, like I said, is like a transmission that really goes to the core of you. And, you know, it's something that's so simple and so foundational that when you hear it, when someone teaches it to you, you're like, I've known this all along. But because we grew up in a system that never taught us these basic foundational things, we just never had an opportunity to learn about it. And once you do, you just feel like you've just reclaimed so much more of your power and sovereignty as a human being. So, okay. Yeah, so let's dive in. Principles of natural law. Hi guys, welcome. So, pull up a slide here. All right. So this is a slide from Mark Passio's seminar. So natural law, so what is it? So the working definition is natural law is universal, non-man-made, binding, and immutable conditions that govern the consequences of behavior. So natural law is a body of universal spiritual laws which act as the governing dynamics of consciousness. So natural law it's not man-made law. Natural law it's self-evident, which means that it's obvious, and it's immutable, which means it can't be changed by any human. They exist. It is inherent in creation, and it governs human behavior and human consciousness. It's sort of the laws that exist here in the earth realm. All right, so I'll pull up another slide. Let's see. Okay. So natural law. So it means natural. So inherent, having a basis in nature, reality, and truth, not man-made or caused by humankind. So a law, an existing condition which is binding and immutable, means that it can't be changed. So it'll start to make sense once we give a little bit more definitions and examples. So natural law is inherent in creation. It's not man-made. It's self-evident, meaning that it's discoverable. It is something that humans can discover. It's like pretty much the only truth that we can truly discover and know. And that's why natural law, learning about it, is so special. Okay. So another slide here. So equality under natural law. So this right here is basically, I'm kind of going with the gold, like right off the bat. So this right here is very, very important to understand. So Sorry, just reading your comment. Okay, so everyone has the exact same rights. Okay, so no one has any more or less rights than anyone else, right? Isn't that true? You can't say that I have more rights than you and that you have more rights than I do. We're both born here on this planet in this earth school, and I don't have more rights than you and you don't have more rights than me. We're equal. So equality under natural law. So also, since rights are not created by man or humanity, and since they are the birthright of humanity, gifted to us by the creator of the universe, no human being or group of human beings is actually capable of granting rights to anyone else, nor is any human being capable of revoking rights from anyone else. So didn't we have a very visceral example of that during COVID times, right? So there was a ploy to try to revoke rights from others and try to coerce others into doing something against their will in order to have basic natural human rights. So again, I'm kind of leading with the gold here. So really important to get this one down into your brain, that no one is capable of granting rights to anyone else, nor is any human being capable of revoking rights from anyone else. So very important to understand that one. So this is examples of natural law in regards to morality and how we can live in a moral way. And we're going to touch on a bit of karma here too in this live. Something I've come to really understand and really come to know on a really deep level. So firstly, the law of cause and effect. So for every cause, there is an effect. We can know that, we can observe that, we can see that. So every action has consequences. And in the law of karma, sometimes actions that we might take, let's say they're bad actions, bad karma, it's not always that the effect will come back to us immediately. Sometimes, it can always be different. Sometimes it takes until the next lifetime for that bad karma to then play out and come back to you. Sometimes it's instant, right? Like you're angry and you kick something and then something falls on your head or something like this, right? Sometimes it's instant. And you get that instant karma. But most often, it doesn't come, it's delayed. There's a delayed response. And like I said, sometimes it doesn't even come in this lifetime. Sometimes it's comes in the next lifetime. So I tend to believe in karma meaning action, that all of our actions in this life, good or bad, they're all recorded. Or they're all recorded almost like you could think of it like a ledger. All of the good actions we take, all of the bad actions we take, they're all recorded, and you could think of it like on a ledger, like a checks and balances. And then at the end of your life, when you have your life review, you end up, your next incarnation, this is what I believe, and you don't have to believe this as well, but this is my working sort of belief in this reality, that depending on your deeds in this life, like I said, checks and balances, good and bad, it results in a sum, and that sum then results in your next incarnation. So if you were a terrible being in this reality, your next incarnation could be an incarnation into a beastly realm of some kind, which could be like, really a mystery to us. And these little bits of information have come to me through different texts, particularly the autobiography of a yogi, when Sri Yukteswar comes back to Paramahansa Yogananda in a vision, and he tells him about the astral realm, and he tells him about how he has reincarnated in the astral realm, and he tells Paramahansa all of these things about sort of the next phase where he's gone to. So I tend to believe, yes, that karma, all of our deeds, it's like checks and balances. It's good deeds, bad deeds, and it's like on a ledger. And at the end of our life, in our life review, our next incarnation is the sum of all of those actions. And like I said, if you're a bad person, you might be reincarnated as a beast in a beastly realm of some kind of thing. Like I said, it's a mystery to us. We don't necessarily need to know. But Sri Yukteswar was, he devoted his life to the spiritual path and teaching people, helping people. And he reincarnated into an astral being in the astral realm as a guide for others. And he got to kind of keep his original form as well. You could choose whichever form you wanted to take. Anyways, but for me, that's how I truly kind of tend to understand things here, and how good actions and bad actions are eventually taken care of. And sometimes, like I said, it doesn't come until your next lifetime. The result of your bad actions or the result of your good actions. So even if, like, let's say you're really trying to live a truth-based life and you're doing as many good actions as you can here, and you might be frustrated, like, well, nothing is really happening, like I'm not getting the things that I want to get and things like that. Well, sometimes those types of rewards for good deeds, sometimes it doesn't come instantly. And maybe it might not even come until your next incarnation. So just kind of understanding these laws of nature, these natural laws of cause and effect. For every cause, there is an effect. So good deeds cause goodness in the world. Bad deeds cause cruelty and suffering in the world. So that's number one of natural law principles of karma. Every action has its consequences. So the next one is the law of freedom. So all beings have free will, and coercion or slavery is immoral. So all beings have free will, and coercion is immoral, and exploitation, aka slavery, is immoral. So you can think of it like, and I believe it was Mark Passio that said this, if you're trying to figure out if something is good or bad or right or wrong, just imagine there's only two people on this earth. There's only two people. So does one person have the right to enslave the other person? No, they don't have that right. Does one person have the right to coerce the other to do something against their will? No. These are the natural laws of the universe. These are the natural laws that have been put in place by the creator of the universe. They are inherent within nature. They are self-evident. They are obvious. And they can't be changed. They are part of this reality. And they are, I believe, above man's law. So man's law is what, is sort of like that artificial layer that I spoke about before. It's that artificial layer on top of this reality that has been foisted upon humanity that we have to try to figure out how to live within. But I do believe that it is crumbling, and that we're in really incredible times now where we're creating a new world, and that system is crumbling. So the law of freedom. All beings have free will. Coercion or slavery is immoral. So that's something we know. We can probably all agree on that, because we're all born here. We're all born here on this earth, and inherent in being born here and existing here, there are rights that we have, which is free will. Law of ownership. So you own yourself and your body, and you own the fruits of your labor. Theft or exploitation violates natural law. So you own yourself. So again, you own your body, and no employer can tell you what to do with your body. It violates natural law. I know many people were coerced in these last couple of years to do something against their will, and it's really sad that happened to so many people, and it's really truly unfortunate. And there's a few things that we that we do have within our realm of ability that we could have used, like conditional acceptance, to kind of come to a bit of a standstill with employers and whatnot. But many people didn't know about that because we're not taught these things, are we? We're not taught about our rights. We're not taught about these different things because there's a reason. Because they try to pull these things on us and hope that we don't know our rights and that we just go along, right? So you own yourself and you own the fruits of your labor. So, you own what you've earned in this life. And this, of course, kind of brings up the topic of taxation. You've heard probably many times taxation is theft. And it is, yes, of course, I know everyone's like, roads and bridges, we need roads and bridges. What about that? What about the infrastructure and things like that? And yes, of course, we do need that. But I think there's ways, like I think sales tax itself can handle that. I think that a much lower amount of tax taken from humanity could cover that. There's so much wasteful spending and government has gotten so top heavy. We don't need that amount of taken from us, taken from our fruits, the fruits of our labor, because that belongs to us. That's what we own. We own our body. We own the fruits of our labor. So, and let's see. So the law of non-aggression. So this is a very obvious one as well. Very obvious. The law of non-aggression. So initiating harm or violence is always immoral. It is always immoral to initiate harm or violence on another being. Like we can all agree that that's true. But self-defense is permitted in natural law. You absolutely have the right to defend yourself against violence, against theft of your life, against harm done against you. We have that right. That is within our rights. I remember seeing a video like a few years ago, and it was interviewing these moms saying, could you fight back if someone was trying to harm your child? Like, could you use mortal force against someone who was trying to hurt your child? And some of these mothers were just so like brainwashed and conditioned that they were like, oh, like, I don't know if I could, like, and I'm just like, I don't even have kids, and I'd just be like, of course, 100%. Mom Bear would be out in like 2 seconds. Like, I would not hesitate because I know natural law and I understand the true morality in that there, even if there could be like man's law consequences for you if you were to take action against someone trying to harm your child, morally and in your heart, that the actions you took were necessary and totally in alignment with natural law, which is self-defense. So again, initiating harm or violence against someone else is immoral, but self-defense is always permitted in natural law. So put a 222 in the chat if you're vibing this chat. And if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. All right, so law of truth. So the law of truth, honesty aligns with reality, and deception creates disorder. So that's what we're seeing right now. So there's another law of like entropy as well, which some of you may have heard of, and it's that over time things tend to decay and entropy, like decaying and kind of crumbling and falling apart. And that's if it's based on deception. But something that's based on truth and the universal laws of the universe will expand in truth and love and be like everlasting. So honesty aligns with reality and deception creates disorder. So you can see why there is so much disorder in the world right now is because it's been based on deception. And I believe we are moving into a time where honesty, where essentially humanity will reclaim morals, true morals, and align our actions to those morals, one of them being honesty, and that through honesty and truth, like I said, it will expand and it will be the opposite of entropy. It expands and grows and creates beauty and integrity and harmony for all humans. So that's another law, is the law of truth. And I know in my life, I have really dedicated myself to truth. It's been a long process over the years. I even invested in a gold ring, and I had it engraved with the word truth, like literally, almost like a ritual that I'm dedicating my life to learning and knowing the truth, and also speaking the truth as much as I can in my own life. The law of, or the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, the book. It's just escaping me now, but essentially, always do your best. Don't make assumptions. It's escaping me in the moment right now, but align with truth essentially is part of that. Be impeccable with your word, right? Be impeccable with your word. And I remember trying to start to really implement that into my life. And I found that there were times when I would just tell like little white lies to embellish a story or something. And I started noticing, and whenever like that would come up, I would stop myself and go, lie. That was a lie. I mean, yeah, it was like an embellishment. It was like harmless, but it wasn't truth. It wasn't truth and integrity. So it is a process of learning to live a truth-based life and really aligning with truth and honesty. But I found that it's a worthy goal for my life to align with truth in every way that I can. And that's all part of why I'm showing up here online. It's not an easy thing, like showing up in this way, sort of opening yourself up to criticism and people maybe debating you and stuff. Actually, I love a good debate, but yeah, it's all part of my work in my personal life, aligning with truth and sharing what I've learned on my path with you guys. So put a 222 in the chat if you're also aligning your life to truth as best you can in every way. So another law, the law of stewardship. So humans are caretakers of the earth and must live in harmony with nature. So we are the caretakers of earth and we must live in harmony with nature. What we do to the earth is what we do to ourselves. To understand that we are all connected and that what we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. To have that level of awareness is a beautiful thing. We don't have that right now, though, on the collective, do we? Ask the pilots spraying chemtrails into the sky. But, so stewardship. So humans are caretakers of the earth and must live in harmony with nature. And I think it's also, too, part of our divine mission here, and it is to connect with the earth and to perfect the dwelling land, as Anastasia says, which is to basically take a plot of land and work with nature to create a beautiful slice of paradise for yourself and your family. And that I think that is a really, really big part of what humans are meant to do here on this earth, is to protect, what did I just say? Perfect the dwelling land. That's what it was. Sorry. And to work with nature and to build a garden and to make it into this beautiful slice of paradise that supports you. And I think too, one of my biggest things about natural law is that idea of having a little piece of land. It's like we're born here, and yet we're just born into this system where we have to pay for everything and we have to work for everything. But we're born here, so natural law would suggest that we have a right to a small piece of land to work and to steward but to really call your own, and to be able to have that for your family and not have to pay in perpetuity for property taxes, not have to slave your entire life away for this little piece of land, this little slice, just a corner of the earth for you and your family. And this again is part of Anastasia's vision for humanity. She calls it kins domains. And this piece of artwork behind me is part of the Anastasia book series. And so she talks about these kins domains where families are meant to have about 3 acres and perfect the dwelling land. So, creating a garden, creating areas like summer sleeping areas for the children, creating like a boundary of raspberry bushes to keep wildlife out. It was all kinds of things, digging for a pond, building your home. And this land is never meant to be sold. It's meant to be passed down to your kin. And yeah, like, can you imagine if everyone was given a piece of land for free? You would just work every single little inch of that land, giving your energy to that land, every single little square inch of that land. You would give it your love. And that's why she says 3 acres, because more than that, you can't really give your entire energy to every little part of that land. And like, could you imagine trying to convince people to go to war when they have their little kins domain and they're living in harmony on their kins domain and enjoying life, enjoying their family, growing food to feed your family, being self-sufficient, all of those wonderful things, right? And that's one of the reasons why we're not given land, which, like I said, I truly believe is part of our natural rights, is to have land. So someone says in the comments, what about lazy people? Well, we certainly do see examples of that, but I truly believe that humans, especially in the consciousness where we're going, we want to dedicate our energy to something. We want to work at things. I think the reason why some people, they don't want to work, et cetera, it's because of a malady of the current system that we're in. It makes people complacent. People are heavily addicted to things because the controllers influence us in all kinds of different ways, and distractions and addictions are just on tap in this reality, and they do that on purpose. But if we were to shift into a different consciousness and be given pieces of land and sort of going back to older ways, I don't think that people would just be lazy and just do nothing the whole time, all day, every day. I think that people that tend that way in our world now is because of depression, because of the environment that we're in, and maybe because of their childhood too, traumas, you name it. But no, I don't. I think that humans' inherent duty and drive in life is to put our energy into something, is to work on something, like a life's work, So that's my answer to that. What about people who steal? Okay, well, that's the thing, is like, in order to move to this new consciousness, this new world, we would all be aligning our actions to this sort of yardstick of morality. And really, natural law distills down to don't steal, right? So don't steal someone's property. Don't steal someone's life, right? Don't steal someone's innocence by grape, right? Don't, steal someone's fruits of their labor. So yes, like in the times that we're in, humanity has been so messed with and so influenced in so many ways. Yes, we do have examples, of course, of people stealing and lazy people, like you mentioned. But I think when we start learning about natural law and how we could live in harmony, and not only that, with all of the changes that are going to happen, and all of the little lights waking up, like I see it. I hope I see it. I hope you guys feel it. I know I feel it there's days where I just feel like this energy is so palpable, and sometimes I'll open my phone to TikTok and I'm seeing people waking up, guys. Like it is happening. People are hungry for this knowledge. They're hungry for this information, and they want a better way. So I think it's just a matter of time, and too, like the beneficial energies available to us at this time, because it's a very palpable time of transformation. Like I've said in the past, I think the sun will help us awaken, like the energies, the light codes from the sun, the earth's magnetism, the water, everything is in concert, and it's humanity's graduation. Like we're coming towards it, and we're going to shake off this parasite once and for all. I truly believe that. I just don't know how long it's going to take. And the whole digital ID thing, that's like coming in hard and fast, and that's going to be like a really pivotal point at which we're really going to have to resist, and just not comply, and eventually not rely on that system as well. So have faith in the times that we're in, and learn about natural law and teach it. Like once you learn about it, teach it to others. It's considered the great work is learning about natural law, these natural principles and concepts that like I said, they're so foundational that when you learn about it, you're like, I know this. I've known this all my life. But no one's ever taken the time to teach it to me. And once you learn it, it really starts to sink in, and then you're like unfuckwithable. You know what I mean? Like you can't be fooled anymore. Once you wake up, once you see clearly, you can't unsee. And you can't, and if you align your actions to this type of morality, then you have nothing to fear. You have everything to gain. So, have faith, my friends. All right. Law of reciprocity. So, treat others as you wish to be treated. Energy exchanged should be fair and balanced. So this is the golden rule, isn't it? Treat everyone as you would like to be treated. It's the golden rule. Yeah. And reciprocity, don't like try to take more than you need, and fair exchange, right? In these tribes, like if you've ever read anything by Farley Mowat, he wrote about the Iqaluit people in northern Canada, and how there was no such thing as hoarding. It just wasn't even like a part of their reality. If you needed something and someone had it, it was yours too. Nobody hoarded things. If there was a tool you needed, it wasn't like so-and-so's. It's everybody's, because, survival in those conditions, in that kind of climate is like so extreme. It's like life or death, right? And it's just like this idea of fair exchange, and and not exploiting people, right? So treat others as you wish to be treated. So that's the law of reciprocity. Law of responsibility. So it's a good one. So you are accountable for your choices, and cannot outsource moral responsibility. So you are accountable for your actions and your choices in this reality, and you cannot outsource moral responsibility. So this is the sort of the idea of the order giver and the order follower. So Mark Passio poses the question. He says, who is more morally culpable, the order giver or the order follower? He asks his audience this all the time. Who is more morally culpable, the order giver or the order follower? And so in all times and places, in all circumstances, the order follower is more morally culpable. There are more moral consequences or karmic consequences to the order follower. So say the soldier, right? The soldier that's taking an order. They are doing the action. So the order giver just said words, right? And they are morally culpable, they are, and that karma for them will play out and will come back to them in this life or the next. But who is more morally culpable? The order follower, always, 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 because they're taking the action. You cannot unalive someone and then just say, well, I was just doing my job. And I know that happens all the time in military and whatever, but this is natural law we're talking about. So this is not man's law. This is the natural laws of the universe, that you cannot outsource moral consequences. And just by saying it was just my job. So can you imagine if every single person knew this, and knew this on a deep level, that all of their actions in this world, in this reality, in this life, comes back to them as consequences, whether it's in this life or not. You know, those pilots flying those planes, spraying chemicals everywhere, you know, they might be told a story that, you know, they're helping the climate, like lowering the temperature of the earth or something, and they're helping humanity and crops and whatever. But I'm sure they know on some level, right, that it's not right, but they're getting paid quite a lot of money for that, aren't they? And so, you know, the consequences for your actions, they might not be felt in this life. You might be just like counting your bills, like, it's pretty good, right? I'm able to provide for my family with this job and whatever. But like I said, like those consequences are going to come eventually, and likely it'll be like maybe in the next life. So can you imagine if everybody knew that natural principle, that natural law? Would anyone, you know, would there even be a military? Would there be anyone dropping BOMBs? You know, there is a principle in the Eightfold Path of Buddhism called right occupation. And so this is the same thing. And it talks about, essentially, if you say were a factory worker in an armament facility, and you made GUNS and you made BOMBs and, you know, jets and all kinds of things for that whole industrial complex of WAR, then what your actions are contributing to that whole thing. So again, like, could you imagine if all of a sudden everybody knew and understood that, would those factories have any workers anymore? You know? And I know that money is sort of like it's paycheck mind control that we're all under, and really you can take any job and say, well, you know, and you could connect the dots and say, well, this is bad, and you know, I get it. I know it's nuanced. There's a lot to it. But these are the natural laws, right? So if you can at least mitigate your actions in this life to be in alignment with truth as much as possible, and not have a job as a factory worker in an armament facility. I'm just trying to say words that are not going to trigger. Then yeah, can you imagine, right? The dark forces of this world would have no one to coerce, because everyone would know the true reality, would know the truth that our actions have consequences, and that the order follower has more moral culpability than the order giver. And if they could really truly understand that you're not getting away with this, that karma and the Akashic records and that ledger, like I said, all of the different deeds that we do, good karma, bad karma, it will come to fruition for you, whether in this life or the next. Just reading some of your comments. So, yeah. So, law of balance. So, harmony arises when masculine and feminine forces are respected equally. So in society, when masculine and feminine forces are respected equally, it's like almost like creates a battery, right? Because it's like a plus and a minus. One inspires the other and creates like this beautiful flow. this divine flow. And it also, in natural law, we talk about balancing the masculine and feminine forces within ourselves. So the masculine principle of we'll start with the feminine principle. So the feminine principle of non-aggression, right? So not initiating harm against another being, of compassion, of having compassion for others. The feminine principle of nurturing. And then the masculine principle of potentially aggression and force when needed. When self-defense is necessary. So in order to be a truly spiritual being, we need to be able to embody both the feminine, non-aggression, but also utilizing potentially force when necessary, and fighting back. But when I say fighting, it's more like defending ourselves and not taking shit, right? From the powers that be. And yeah, to sort of dismantle the system that we're in, it's not going to come from like this outside force necessarily. I think it's going to really come from the internal awakening of waking up to like the illusion, and then changing our behavior based on the natural laws of the universe and based on natural law and our true rights and freedoms, that we see the illusion for what it is. And once you see it, you then align your actions with what you now know. And then the system eventually, when enough people do that, it crumbles. When enough people turn their eyes away from the celebritards, when enough people turn their eyes away from all the distractions, the bread and circuses, and all of the addictions and the things that they influence us to do. I think that's how we dismantle the system, the illusion. And it's happening in real time right now. I see it, and it's beautiful and wonderful, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it. Yeah. Could be intense though too, as we see things crumble, but knowing in our hearts that we're being squeezed for a reason because we're in a rebirth. We're in a rebirth and a reawakening of our divinity and our natural laws, natural rights and freedoms. So the law of unity, all life is interconnected. So this is a lot like law of stewardship, but all life is interconnected. Harm to another is harm to the whole. So again, yeah, the earth's body is my body. What I do to the earth, I do to myself. Just that understanding, that inner standing, that we are all connected. That our actions here have so much weight. And yeah, just to have that awareness of the interconnectedness of all things, and that, to have that level of care within ourselves, caring about more than just our small reality, our small lives. Having that care extend out to all of humanity and this story that we're writing. So that's another kind of principle of natural law, is the principle of care, which could be a topic all in itself. So again, like I touched on, Anastasia's vision, like allowing people to have land, I think that's such a fundamental thing, and I think that's something that we absolutely should have. Whether that's going to happen in this current regime, probably not. But under natural law, every being born into this world has the inherent right to sustain themselves directly from the earth through access to land, water, air, and sunlight. So that's another one that we probably can't really argue with each other about, right? Natural law, again, self-evident. It's obvious. So under natural law, every being born in this world, into this world, onto this earth plane, has the inherent right to food, to water, to sustain themselves directly from the earth through access to land, water, air, and sunlight. Yeah. Something I've pondered before is, like, I'm in Canada, right? And it's like, if, like, think about all the land in Canada, and really anywhere. I mean, as far as I have experienced in North America, you go for a drive anywhere and there's just so much land. There's so much land. So I tend to not agree with the whole idea that, like, we're overpopulated. And two, to even really verify how many people they say there actually are on this earth. Like, they say 8 billion, but how could any of us even verify that, as truth, right? I don't know. So, allegedly. But, you go for a drive anywhere, you see all this land. And like I said, Anastasia's vision, only 3 acres per family is this beautiful amount of land that you could just dedicate all of your energy to. And so something I've pondered before is, I live in Canada, and it's like, if the Canadian citizens don't own the land in the country they live in the country that they're citizens of, if we don't own the land, then who does and why? Oh, because the royal family and the history and they conquered it, and so you can't own any of it, and you're really, truly, we're just employees of the Corporation of Canada. Yeah. But really, isn't that just like, I mean, even the idea of countries and borders is, we could go into all of that too, right? Because they're like invisible lines. And we should be able to move freely as well. Another principle of natural law, that we're born here, should be able to move freely without unnecessary BS. Even in our passports, it says that that we should be helped to get to our destination. I can't remember the word, like, without unnecessary BS, basically. Anyways, what I'm saying is, if the Canadians don't own the land in Canada, like, who does and why? And again, it comes down to rights. And, we're born here. I believe we should have a right to land, to be able to live on it without taxes into perpetuity, to not have to slave away. It's just given to you because it's your birthright. To have a piece of land, to have access to land, to have access to water, sunlight, and growing food. I think it's a natural human right. It's our birthright. And at one point, when Canada was wanting to populate the West, like Alberta and stuff, they just said, yeah, just go out there and just pick some land and take it and just start a life out there. And it's like, yeah. Anyways, like I said, if we all had a little piece of land, a little corner of the earth for ourselves, like I said, how could they convince any of us to go to war? How could they convince any of us to, continue consuming and doing all of the things that keeps this matrix alive, right? So, yes. So, guys, I hope this has been informative and this really just scratched the surface of natural law and the principles. But yeah, if a being is born of the earth, they have the right to live upon her freely. So again, this is just scratching the surface of natural law. It's one of my favorite topics, and I hope that you'll dive a little deeper into it. And I'll give you guys a little homework. This is something that I'll tell my clients that work with me. And it's a big homework assignment because it's a 9-hour-long seminar, but it's so good. And like I said, it's one of those things that just removes a layer of brainwashing. It removes part of it. And sometimes you need that long, because again, guys, we've been brainwashed, and in brainwashing, how they apply it is through repetition and time under tension and like repetition, right? So you need that much time also to undo it for yourself. So that's why a 9-hour-long seminar, it's a long time, but it's important, and it'll help in that deconditioning process. So Mark Passio's Natural Law Seminar is available on YouTube. Just type in Natural Law Seminar, Mark Passio, it's spelled the way it sounds. And he also has a website, whatonearthishappening.com. Now, he is, his delivery, he's a little intense, But he even says, he's like, don't let your opinions of me get in the way of you learning this info. Because his delivery can be a little bit intense, but you know what? Intensity, passion, I think it's necessary for this reality in this world and to get these ideas across. So I highly recommend checking out Mark Passio. 9-hour long natural law seminar. Like I said, it's on YouTube. Listen to it in the car. Listen to it on your walks in the morning. Give it your full attention if you can. Look at the screen too, because he does have a lot of slides and stuff. But yeah, definitely check that out. And you'll see examples of it in your life as you go forward, especially if this really landed for you. So guys, if you loved this and this felt really clear to you, make sure to keep following me. I'll be sharing a lot more about different topics on Tuesday nights right here on Instagram. And then eventually I'll be moving all of my content over to Locals. So you can find the link to that in my bio, and that is a free speech platform, because I don't know how much longer I'm even going to be able to talk about these things. I tried to censor myself a little bit here, spelling certain words and things, but I know I said a few things that might have even tipped off the algorithm and the AI. So, I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to even speak freely on these platforms. So it is a free speech platform. It was created by someone who was canceled by Patreon. And so all my stuff is over there. It's only $9 a month. But yeah, keep showing up here on Tuesday nights at 7:30, and we'll be chatting more about things, and keep putting your comments, your questions in the comments. And then I've also opened up one-on-one sessions again. I closed them down in like 2022 or so, and took a lot of time away, but you guys asked, so I've got my one-on-one sessions open again, because I know like a lot of us are struggling with things right now. Things are really heavy, and it can be really challenging being awake and not having anybody understand you, and having nobody around you to talk about this stuff with. And yeah, so keep following along. I'm going to influence you, and I'm going to influence you in a good way, I promise. So next week, not sure what we're going to chat about, but we're definitely going to talk about health and wellness very soon too. And talk about yoga and how yoga has really changed my life and kept me sharp and young in my almost 41 years of age. So, guys, I love you. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. And I will see you guys soon. Don't forget your homework. Mark Passio, 9-hour long natural law seminar. Okay, guys, I will talk to you soon. Bye.